Hello, welcome to another episode of Manga Monday. I am Jason Hahn, and today we're talking about My Hero Academia, both the anime and chapter 373 of the manga, officially titled Friends. But we're going to talk about the anime first, so anybody who is worried about manga spoilers, go ahead and check the description on what time you can listen up till. But I am Jason Hahn, writer for Screen Rant. Started Manga Mondays to talk about the manga series we love, and got some buddies with me to talk about My Hero Academia today. Steven, how you doing, man?
Hey, Jason. Yeah, I'm doing well. Yeah, my name is Steven, and I'm the writer. I'm a writer for Screen Rant for their comics, manga, anime section, as well as interview section. Whenever a fun person who I want to interview stops by. But yeah, mostly manga, and I'm really excited to talk about the manga itself. But as you said, we'll talk about the anime first.
Oh, well, yeah, I'm sure you'll be able to chip in because, the anime is definitely adapting some of the cooler part, or definitely one of my favorite arcs. But we're going to be talking about the latest episode to come out is episode 8, League of Villains versus UA Students. But we also got Carlisle to help us talk about it today. How are you, man?
Carlisle, doing pretty good. I'm a writer at Screen Rant as well. Do anime and manga, a lot of My Hero, and
And Maggie might.
yeah, and especially this weekend, Pokemon. Um, but that was so controversial, so let's not talk about that. Let's talk about the episode.
Oh boy, I'm gonna have to ask you guys off mic because I missed all the Pokemon news this weekend. But yeah, it was a great chapter of My Hero Academia, and I'm really enjoying the anime right now. As I said, the anime is adapting like one of my favorite arcs of the whole story, and there was a couple really cool moments in the anime, and there's some couple things that like really threw me off, but it's stuff that really just kind of throws me off about the series in general, and that's a lot of the like, I guess some people would call it fan service, but
They do that. Uh-oh.
oh yeah, there's during these episodes we got Gigantomachia running through the forest. He's breaking out of the mansion and running toward Shigaraki. He's got the League of Villains on his back. They're kind of keeping it down low and waiting for a surprise attack. And sure enough, that moment comes when Lady Midnight is jumping towards them, and then she gets hit with a whole bunch of rubble from Mr. Compress. And she's not in a good situation. She's like broken and bloody, and there's just some very weird choices that they make on like how to draw her while this is happening, like,
Yeah,
and it
Oh,
really
it's not one of the students. Oh, I'm fine with Midnight.
oh, I'm getting to it.
it's the context.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, like unfortunately, kind of they do it with Momo in this chat in these episodes too.
Oh.
But I've always kind of had an issue with her like costume design anyway. She's just I get her whole like, I have to have my skin bare so all these magical items can come out of me, and it's just like, but you didn't have to write it that way. It's just kind of it there's some
Also, the logical place is her back. Like that's the biggest surface area. She
yeah,
wants to create things.
and that's definitely one of the most covered areas. Everything else is not. But it's just like stuff like that like kind of takes me out of like the drama, and it doesn't help me like take anything seriously. So like this is supposed to be like Midnight, like she's broken and bloody, possibly at her deathbed, and it's just like really hard to take it seriously when they animate her extremities like way bigger than they've ever been, and you're like, okay, that's what am I supposed to be focusing on? The life and struggles of this pro hero who has risked her life to save everybody, or her voluptuousness? And it's like it kind of bothers me, but that's something that My Hero Academia does consistently. I'd say even in the manga too, especially with some of the students. But yeah, Momo uh, kind of has her moment too, where she's got to be, she's got to step up to the plate and be a team leader. And she devises the whole plan to get some sleeping agent into Gigamakia's mouth, and all kinds of stuff happens where, of course, things don't go to plan. I forget the pink girl's name, but she almost has like a really good moment, and then she flashes back to like, oh, that one time I was a little girl and Gigamakia like came to town and he asked for directions and everyone was too scared, and now I'm scared and I can't throw it, and I'm just like, this is kind of dumb. Like,
We flash back to that scene before.
yeah.
So like, it's not like it came out of nowhere, but it was a little weird to have that just kind of stop her right there.
Mm-hmm.
That was it was it was one of the things I was writing about for this episode. It's she's got this past. She has to face her past. A lot of characters have had to do that, but she ends up being relatively unsuccessful, which is very disappointing because I like Mina,
Yeah.
but she doesn't get to do a whole lot.
Right. And the guy who did get to do a lot and came in for the save is one of my favorite characters, Kirishima, and but still, I mean, it ultimately failed. Like at the end, they still got one broken into his mouth, but then he just like responds in full and like transforms into this like giant clawed Freddy Krueger monster. Like he has his like jaw like disconnects and goes over his eyes to become a shield. And it's like, I don't remember that. That looks awesome.
Yeah.
What was, I don't think that was in the original manga, like him transforming to that extent. And I think even Dobby like brings up in the anime, he's just like, oh yeah, you've got this quirk and so many others, primarily making you something that can just last in the battlefield as long as possible. And I don't remember that in the manga. I don't remember them like laying out all of Gigamakina's like powers. I've just always thought he's just a hulking disaster.
Yeah, he's one of those. He's kind of like a proto Nomu in that they've just kept giving him quirks until he stopped being intelligent, essentially.
Yeah, which is kind of weird that like, so he may have been like an all for one sort of thing that could hold multiple quirks, or you think that he was like more of a Nomu?
I think that he probably originally just had the enlarging quirk, and then All for One just kept giving him more.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that there's ever been an explanation for how he got those quirks, but I mean, All for One giving them to him is as good an explanation as any.
Oh yeah, because they've definitely like drawn the connection between All for One and him previously. Before Shigaraki, became the new master, it was definitely, oh, I'll do whatever I need for my master. So that makes total sense. But yeah, so that bit was kind of cool. I thought that they successfully got all the tension, and when Kirishima came in for the last minute save, it felt epic and cool. Just the music and everything really lines up really well. But as you kind of brought up, there's a few flashbacks. It's just like, I get it. I know. I don't need them to refresh our memory on this certain aspect, but really enjoyed the Shigaraki stuff. They're adapting that all pretty well, I think. Him just like pretty much taking out Gran Torino, and
poor Gran Torino.
Yeah, like they surprisingly kept all the brutality of like Shigaraki just gut punching him. Like they weren't shy about the blood in that moment, and I thought that was pretty well handled. And some of my favorite panels of this moment too, I thought they did really well. Like when Deku does his Wyoming smash and is like, Shigaraki's biting down on his arm while they're trying to restrain Shigaraki. Like, it's just a really brutal moment. I loved it.
Yeah, and then of course there's Aizawa. Oh, even knowing what's gonna happen makes it worse, actually.
Yeah, that was actually like kind of one flashback I didn't mind, was just like going back to all the moments Aizawa has like been there for the students. He definitely felt like a character when he was first introduced. He was just written to be like the teacher character, but then I feel like he's one of those characters that's so popular that they're like, okay, we need to keep on putting him in. So he's definitely like grown more, or gotten more time than I'd say a lot of the other heroes that we wish we had spent more time with, especially knowing what happens later on we feel like some heroes should have had more time to focus on them to make moments more, epic when they happen. But Aizawa was kind of one of those characters that's always been there, so like getting to see his struggle, and yeah, that moment where Shigaraki's about to break out and then Deku shows up for the last minute save. And literally after Gran Torino was just like, just imagine what the worst situation would possibly be. And to us, we know that that worst situation would be like Shigaraki getting All for One. But to Deku, the worst situation would be, or no, sorry, Shigaraki getting Deku's power would be the worst situation. But Deku, hearing that, thinks the worst thing that could happen is he gets an eraser. So that was all built up really well. I am enjoying. There's definitely more to enjoy. What was that?
To be fair, that's a valid concern. Aizawa
Yes.
has been such an important strategic element here. Losing him would be catastrophic. So not entirely wrong.
Yeah, yeah, and I like that Gran Torino, didn't see it that way, but Deku did. So it's almost like the new generation is able to think a little bit more, or at least a couple steps ahead of the old generation, kind of surpassing the last guys and stuff like that. But yeah, speaking of flashbacks too, I really enjoyed just to help with the drama's sake. Like, I think it was Shigaraki thinking back to when his grandma like hugged him for the last time, and she like left the family, and it's just Shigaraki like essentially saying like, you heroes have hurt people who are closest to you too by sacrificing your actions for the greater good, or sacrificing your relationships with your family for the greater good. And the whole plot of the previous inheritor of One for All, Shigaraki's grandma, had to leave the left the family, so then All for One wouldn't learn about them and use them to against her. So getting to see that, and I really like those panels in the manga too, and it was also drawn very beautifully here when Gran Torino's kind of watching this, and she casts them aside and he's just holding on to her while she's crying and stuff. It's just like, oh, it's so cute. And while I was reading it in the manga too, I remember while that moment was happening, I was just like, I wonder if Gran Torino could be Shigaraki's grandpa. Like, I wonder if her and Gran Torino may have had a relationship. But Gran
It
Torino's...
does seem suggested there. Like it feels like they have a more intense relationship than just being superhero partners.
Yeah, I agree, and that would be really interesting, but I don't feel like Gran Torino, either he wouldn't know about it or something like that, or he is just a cold bastard. Because he's definitely never been like, oh, you're my grandson, I need to help you out. He's definitely always been the one who's just like, oh, I mean, I don't want to take you out because you're my old partner's grandson, but I'll do what I have to do to save the world. That sort of thing. But that would be a very interesting plot twist, but I'm not sure if the series is going to go there or not.
Yeah, I think if it was going to happen, that probably would have been when it happened.
Yeah, I agree. But who knows? Maybe that not to give it away, but just to kind of tease it. It might be maybe they don't want to overshadow some family drama to happen later on in the season.
Yeah, that's a valid concern.
Without saying any more about that. Just kind of thinking back. Oh yeah, Bakugo kind of getting his moment. I remember it being a lot more dramatic in the manga, like Shigaraki telling Bakugo, it's just like, I no longer care about you. You no longer interest me. I remember like, at least when we were reading it week to week, hearing like Bakugo hearing that, it's just like the worst thing you could say to Bakugo, because he's just the personality. It was just like, oh, what did you say to me about that? No, and then he does like a huge attack that stuns Shigaraki and everybody, but it felt just like a very quick attack in the anime. I don't feel like they spent enough time on like Bakugo's like, I've been charging all this up just to use against you, and all that, like I just felt like it kind of got glossed over for everything else going on. But uh, yeah, Bakugo's got some pretty cool moments in this fight. I'm excited to see more of it.
Yeah, that should be next episode. So
Hell yeah. Um, well, yeah. Honestly, at the pacing of this season, I'm kind of thinking that this battle might just be like the first. They usually do break these seasons up in halves. They usually do like the first half, then take a break, and then the second half comes out because they have to have enough DVDs to sell to everybody.
Oh yeah, I think they're called cores. Like
Chorus?
C,
Okay.
yeah, I've
yeah,
seen that word lately.
yeah, COURES or something. Yeah.
I see.
It's a
Well,
French word, I believe.
huh? Interesting.
Core.
Cool. Cool. Um, well, yeah. Some animes do it. I mean, My Hero Academia seems to always do like 20 some episode seasons, so it makes sense in that. Some other seasons of anime, like my wife's a big Hellsing Ultimate fan, so we bought all the Blu-rays for that, and it's literally like $30 a Blu-ray, and each one only has 2 freaking episodes on it.
Oh crap.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But My Hero Academia at least like, oh yeah, here's like the first 12 episodes, part 1 of season blah blah blah. So I almost see them wrapping up this huge awesome battle in this first half, and then after that we have a whole another like 12 episodes. Hopefully we'll be getting some actually just stopping myself right now because I don't want to go into. I was about to go into some spoiler territory, at least what the name of the next couple arcs might be. So very exciting stuff. But yeah, other than the fan service things and the the things that I'm sure other guys are very very obsessed about and have pillows and posters of those sort of moments. Not a big fan. Kind of took me out of the drama in some of the episodes of the anime lately, but other than that, I thought the newer episodes are pretty great, and excited for the next one too. But any more thoughts on the anime episode, Carlisle, before we go into manga territory?
No, I think we hit most everything.
All right, excellent. Um, yeah, we are now going to go ahead and jump into My Hero Academia chapter 373. And I'm going to go ahead and mark down in my notes what time this thing is at. Bah, bah, bah. But we are officially done talking about the anime episode, moving on to chapter 373 of My Hero Academia, officially titled Friends. And I thought this chapter was all right. I kind of felt like the last few chapters have all building up to this huge, societal society themed, discrimination storyline, and I've been really enjoying it. They've been building up to this moment, and I just kind of feel like it. Well, we ended up calling a lot of it. For me, the biggest moment that I was just like, oh, well, that's exactly how we thought it was going to go, was pretty much some of the mob being like, wait, are we the bad guys? And the pig man, I don't know if we have an official name for the guy, but the one that the last chapter kind of devoted a few panels to, one of the guys in the front line seeing Spinner just charging through the hospital, which we got to see like some rubble, but we still didn't get like a glimpse of like the true carnage that Spinner most likely, I'm going to say 90% sure that he just charged through all those doctors and nurses. But I know that would have been maybe possibly too gruesome for My Hero Academia to draw, but we at least got to see some of the rubble and them being like, I essentially I didn't sign up for this. I got all excited about helping out. But I don't want to hurt, hospital workers essentially. And suddenly everybody in the mob is all like kind of chilling out after all that. But I don't know. It's just like even that whole moment was sandwiched right in the middle of. I guess I probably should have started this by talking about the cover story, or the cover the cover page because it's all like animated and colored, and it looks great. It's like a Shirikomo and Kirigiri hybrid, I guess, and it's honestly kind of spoils the coolest part of the chapter for me. Like, we eventually get to like Kirigiri and that whole situation with Spinner. He ends up kind of waking up because Spinner ends up reaching him. We'll dive more into how a little bit later, but I honestly, like, my favorite part of this chapter was how Hirakoshi decided to draw this like Kurogiri waking up. And I feel like the cover kind of spoiled it for me. I almost feel like the cover should have been the cover for the next chapter, because obviously we're going to see what he does after he's woken up in the next chapter. And I just felt like it was kind of an odd thing to like spoil for this chapter, because it definitely was like the big dramatic moment of everything in this chapter was leading up to him waking up. So us seeing this like really cool art piece at the first part of this chapter spoiled that for me, unfortunately. What about you guys?
Well, I'll just say, besides that, I mean, something that I felt that was really interesting in regards to that actual scene at the very end is the difference between, and again, the difference between the official translation and the fan translation.
Yes.
Yeah, because in the fan translation, they pointed out, I believe it was Oriwa, but basically they pointed out that that Kurogiri who's speaking, he speaks in a manner that Shirakumo speaks.
Yeah.
So it's creating the idea that it's actually Shirakumo, and if that is true, then that's really intense, because he's obviously aligning himself with Shigaraki, which makes it all the more sad and tragic, if that's actually true. I mean, I don't know, Carlisle, I know you actually read Japanese, so I didn't know if you were able to confirm that or not.
Yeah, I did track that down, and I tried to look at Vigilantes as well, and he does. Kurogiri always speaks in a very polite manner, since he's basically a servant, and Shirakumo has that. The ore is a first person pronoun, and it's like a very brash, youthful, masculine pronoun to use, and so that is what Shirakumo uses when he speaks about himself. So it's the way that I see it is that sentence is split in half, essentially. He's talking about himself as Shirakumo, and then he flips mid-sentence into Kurogiri mode. So there's conflict going on here. That's what I think that sentence signifies.
Oh, that's a shame. I mean, I like that, and you're probably right, because you're reading the actual Japanese. I was like hoping that it was all Shirakumo, because that, like I said, like it would just be so much more tragic. Because I mean, there was always the thing where it's either going to be Kurogiri who wakes up, and if it's Kurogiri, then he'll obviously align himself with Shigaraki. But if Shirakumo woke up, then he would obviously align with President Mike. But it's the fact that there could be that third option. It would just be more of just a betrayal, because it's like, this is like your one chance, like this is like your first time speaking with Shirakumo, and he's like, yeah, President Mike, no, I'm with Shigaraki, type of deal. But I mean, it is cool though. I really like that you're able to make that reading, Carlisle, because that is cool, because it's the same thing that Shigaraki has been going through himself, him fighting with All for One and him. So I mean, it's cool for sure. I appreciate that insight.
I mean, it's just like it's so much more interesting if it's another like tale of struggling to find your identity. But I don't know, the official translation just seems to like do away with that, unfortunately.
Yeah, I have no idea how you would get that across with still having the accurate translation while also getting that conflict across. Mm-hmm. The only thing I can think about is maybe doing different fonts or something.
Yes.
It really would be very difficult.
Yeah, that's the only way. Yeah, that I can think of it. Like, where if Kurogiri is speaking, though, the wording would be all like squiggly.
Yeah, like a different font, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing with Shigaraki. Yeah, I think that was what Carlo was just saying. Like, in the while we're reading the manga, it's hard to tell. Like, okay, is this Shigaraki talking, or is it like all for one Shigaraki talking? Um, and it's something that I think the anime, especially right now, with Shigaraki, the anime is currently doing some stuff with like Shigaraki has awakened after he has obtained all for one, and when you're watching the anime, you obviously get to hear the difference between Shigaraki's voice and All for One's voice. So I'm curious to see how they do that here. Or they might just throw everyone for a loop and just have both audio going at the same time of both voice actors doing it, which could be interesting.
They're gonna do like a Darth Vader slash Anakin Skywalker, like they did in Ben Kenobi.
Did they? I didn't even notice that.
You didn't know? Oh man, that's like the only part of the show that I loved.
Oh yeah, I enjoyed the Vader Kenobi moments most of the time, but oh yeah,
like when his mask got split in half, like it's part James Earl Jones speaking, and then the other part is Christensen, which is
awesome.
Insane. Yeah,
That's cool. Well, yeah, I guess I don't know. We might have to wait a little while before this part is animated, but yeah, I don't know. Next chapter, I think we'll find out. Which obviously for the story to continue to have the stakes raised and be more exciting, he's got to help Shigaraki out somehow. However, my previous theory, I think I debunked, at least especially with this last panel. I don't think Spinner's going to be able to help anybody after this.
Oh.
Yeah, he looks pretty out for that. Yeah,
yeah.
Out for the count.
Yeah, in our previous podcast, I had discussed, like, I just had an awesome panel in mind, like, if Kirigiri was able to just zap buffed up, roided out Spinner to the other battlefield, and just seeing him appear through Kirigiri's powers, like, above Eraser, to be able to stop them from canceling out Shigaraki's quirk. Sounds like a pretty cool thing. Sounds like a cool moment, but I really don't think Spinner's going to be able to help them out, unless Kirigiri like zaps Spinner to the battlefield, and they somehow get Eraser to stop doing his erasing. Eraser, stop erasing, and maybe. Shigaraki's able to heal Spinner or something like that is the only way I could see that possibly still working, but I almost think it'd be pretty funny if he zapped Spinner like he is now to the battlefield, and Shigaraki still getting his quirk canceled, and Spinner's just a broken mess. And he's just like, why did you drop me off here? This is a terrible place for me to be right now. But yeah, I'm kind of curious to hear what you guys thought or think might happen next, or if you had any other thoughts on this chapter. I still have some more notes I can go over too. So
there is a fun connection between this chapter and that most recent episodes of the anime. This spider guy who's been standing on the rooftops and yelling for Spinner. He's in that anime episode. He's in that chapter of the manga. He's one of Midnight's killers. He's not a good dude. And he's definitely not just politically motivated here. He's one of these, I'm here to cause trouble for the fun of it kind of guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did notice him too in the anime. I was just like, oh, it's that guy that is, being a big douche in the manga right now. But yeah, I was kind of hoping, like, because they're getting to Midnight's death essentially, and it's something that the anime has the possibility to do is expand a little bit more where the manga left off. And unfortunately, something that we've brought up in the podcast too, we have a problem with them off-screening Midnight's death. And then especially we have like a whole segment in the manga right now where we have a group of students essentially like in front of supposedly the person who killed Midnight, which I don't think is supposed to be the spider dude, right?
Yeah, there's a gas mask dude who's also there, and he's the one who's like, "Let me do it." But
Okay.
Spider Dude was there and totally watched it happen at the very least. So
Yeah. He was definitely part of it. And I think it's safe to say that guy's out of commission now. Like, I think that the entire situation that's like in front of the hospital, at least judging from this like
yeah,
chapter, it seems like this was like the mob calming down. Um, Especially after like just a couple of the dudes in the mob at the front lines are, actively like, oh, let's all calm down, let's all chill out, let's all be friends. And it's just another thing that I've kind of have an issue with too is like everybody who is at the front lines is able to hear everybody, and everybody in the mob is also able to hear the conversations that are going on right now. It's like that's I'm willing to accept that we have a superhero society and people have magical powers and stuff, but I don't know how the whole mob is like calming down from these little conversations inside the hospital right now. But that's just me being nitpicky, I think.
yeah, not a big deal.
um, but speaking of people not being loud enough, I think that present Mike, like, there's a couple moments in this chapter I thought that he was like, okay, this is my last resort, but I was feeling like he was like preparing to obliterate
Yeah,
Shirakumo, which would have been the. I mean, it's of course a last resort sort of thing, but it would have probably saved the world from what's about to happen. Because I feel like something bad's about to happen, at least for
You
this.
think?
Yeah,
No.
yeah, yeah. Spoiler alert for My Hero Academia: bad things are probably about to happen.
Mhm.
But it just kind of like almost thinking about this whole like little arc in context of say something bad does happen after this, because that it almost feels inevitable. It has to happen for the story to keep getting more epic. But this wasn't really the win that like heteromorphs need. Like they've built up the whole society views heteromorphs as like a scourge. They're annoying. They're things that people just like barely tolerate. Even worse outside of the city.
The
Um,
deplorables.
yeah, the deplorables. Oh, jeez. And honestly, like I just thinking like how society will look back at this moment after everything's all said and done. And I mean, this would technically be considered a loss. Like, and you're just gonna have this like angry mob of heteromorphs. It's not really the win that like this part of society who has felt distrodden and discouraged or discriminated against. This is not a good ending for them. I feel like we need to have some sort of big triumphant hero moment, heteromorph related, so then society will be able to like I don't know for a happy ending. I guess they've just done like a pretty good job of wrapping up the whole idea that these people that society needs to change to widely accept these people, and this little arc isn't that. So I'm wondering if you guys have any thoughts on how this could have handled it a little bit better. Because this is kind of a bummer ending for especially Koji and Shoji, or Koda and Shoji.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely not over yet. And I think their stories still have to be told. I mean, if it does end here and that this whole arc just ends, that would be a shame because I feel like they've been propping up Shoji and Koda so much in this section that it would feel like it would just be a grave disservice if it just concluded this way. So I really do believe, and especially for My Hero Academia, it's not a dark series. I think it'll probably have to conclude a different way that's more happy ending ish. I mean, I actually would prefer it if it kind of ended this way, but I really doubt it just because it's My Hero.
Right. Well, I don't know. He has surprised us a few times, but Yeah, it just seems to like dabble in the darkness rather than putting its whole foot in.
Yeah, well, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah, especially with Dark Deku and all that. It could
Yeah,
have like it was going in a very dark direction, then all of a sudden one chapter, it's like, oh no, everything's fine now.
yeah. I mean,
Music
getting
can be
to see like all of Class 1A against Deku, like to try to slow him down and convince him, was pretty cool. But yeah, it was like as soon as they're like, "Man, Deku, here's a Snickers. Like, go take a shower and take a nap." And then he's just like, "Oh man, okay, I'm shaking off this dark phase. I feel better now. Thanks, everybody." Like,
Yeah, and All Might and him get like they had a really hard falling out, and it was just all fine. Like All Might just does that bow, I'm sorry, and everything's okay. It's like, oh man, it would have been so great if they had like a big falling out. Just because that moment when he turns on him, when Deku, when All Might is trying to save him, and Deku's like, I don't need you, and just turns away and walks
yeah,
away.
he
Like
like
that was like a
walks out on him.
big sell. Like that was like a huge moment, and it's like, oh no, never mind, that never happened.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think for a good parallel with All Might and Sir Night Eye, when we saw that flashback and All Might walks away from him in the hospital, and he's like, you're gonna die, you can't keep doing this, and it's kind of like the same thing. All Might to Deku's like, this is not good for you. You can't keep this up, and Deku ignores him just like All Might ignored Sir Night Eye. So it's kind of like turning the tables on him, and to have kept that up a little bit longer would have been much more interesting, I think.
yeah. And that's honestly, I'm really hoping that the anime gets to that in this season because they're doing pretty well on the pacing. We're about to get to like Deku going all out against Shigaraki, so I really think that this the war arc that the anime is covering right now has only got a couple episodes left. Then I think they're going to be taking a break, and then hopefully we get enough episodes to do Dark Deku stuff. So that'll be very exciting. I'm hoping we get there.
And I will say one more thing, just to answer your earlier question about the cover. Um, I just think it's fairly interesting. I mean, I know obviously Horikoshi, he's a big fan of American comics, most especially superhero ones, and it's funny that the cover is emulating an American comic like Marvel Comics. But what I think is interesting though is that I'm wondering if it's actually a critique of American comics, just because a lot of the times the covers have absolutely nothing to do with what
Yeah,
happens. Like it's kind of annoying. Like I
yeah,
remember like you see a great cover, it's like, oh man, is this gonna happen? And nothing like that ever happens. Like I'm wondering if him Horikoshi putting that last panel on the cover is kind of like a critique of that, because like you never see that
oh,
happening,
interesting
and
take.
it's really one of the most annoying things about American comics. Well, one,
I remember being a kid and specifically like, oh, can I get this comic, mom? And the rare occasion she would get it, and I would like read through it and like, wait, this Sonic cover doesn't have
oh,
anything
don't
here.
get
Like,
me started. Oh man, on the Sonic, like it is the most. Oh man,
I,
no.
I, I honestly think there was like when I was younger, there was probably a couple Sonic comics I had bought because the cover was so cool, and then I think I specifically like didn't read the comic because I like eventually brought it home and would just flip through to see like what part that cover was like referencing. So then because I was a kid and didn't understand narrative pacing and all that stuff.
Right.
But yeah, it's just that's an interesting take. I wonder if it because I don't know, just the other thing of him just like this is something that's really cool, so I'm gonna put it on this. It's just I don't know. It ruined the chapter for me because that was the moment I really liked, and I really liked that design. And of course, I do love the art of the cover, but I
Yeah.
just feel like it's the coolest part of the chapter that spoils the coolest part of the chapter. um,
Yeah.
and so it kind of bothered me there, but it looks awesome.
Yeah, it's I don't want to delve into it too much, but I know with the Sonic comics with Archie, their comic covers were notoriously bad in that respect
Yeah.
until yeah, I think it was around issue 120 when they actually started redesigning their covers to emulate more of a magazine type of style. I
Mm.
forgot who the cover artist was, but yeah, no, Sonic's covers have been notoriously bad in that respect.
Well, yeah, just kind of going over the last of my notes here. I think the one last bit about this chapter that I definitely wanted to bring up that I really enjoyed was for a couple panels, especially after Spinner gets hit with President Mike's attack. Um, Spinner maybe had some sort of pockets or something. I'm not sure, but he had like a phone or a recording device, and one of Shigaraki's hands just conveniently in his pocket. Um, but I was thinking I was gonna be pretty disappointed if like recording device or it might be a phone. I'm looking at it a little bit more closely. I think it's a broken phone, but I was hoping that that wasn't going to be how Kirigiri wakes up, is just the phone falls and then it somehow plays an audio file that Kirigiri needs to wake up. I was really hoping that that wasn't going to be the case, but luckily, an Spinner went plus ultra and put the hand in Kirigiri's face, which of course is the thing that they needed to do. It felt a lot more dramatic. It felt earned, especially after everything that Spinner has just gone through, and he's kind of in his weird trance. But he's gotten the crap beat out of him, and he still was able to get up and do what he needed to do. So that was something I enjoyed. But yeah, as we said earlier, I don't think Spinner's going to be much help unless somebody magically heals him.
Where's the kissy lady? No, wrong side.
Yeah, I mean, she would help because she's probably a good doctor, but um, yeah. Any other thoughts on My Hero Academia 373, gentlemen, before we move into plugs and recommendations? Because I think that's about everything I had.
I just feel like they handled this the feeling like you're radicalized and you don't really have a way to back down through this pig guy really well.
Mhm.
I did not expect this to handle this quite as well as it has over these past couple chapters. I know we were all a little hesitant about switching over to this storyline,
Mhm.
but it has been surprisingly good. So
Yeah.
hopefully we don't totally abandon it right here.
Yeah, I
Yeah, I
agree.
think,
I mean, it
yeah.
took a couple chapters. Oh, go ahead, Stephen.
No. I was going to completely agree. I mean, I was going to say, I think it was the chapter before, like the immediate chapter before this, or the one before when I got sold that this is actually a pretty good arc. So
Yeah.
it needs to do it justice by ending it well. And I think it will. I don't think it's just going to end here. I mean, that would just be egregious.
I would be pretty disappointed if it did end here, and it sounds like we all agree. I think that it took a couple chapters to convince us, especially after how high the stakes are with Shigaraki and Deku's battle, and just how epic that was. As soon as they switched gears to this, it's like, oh man, this. All right, well, I guess we need to build up a little bit, and it successfully did, and it built it up all so well that I too would be pretty disappointed if we just jumped away from here. Um, I'm curious to see how it all shakes out, especially after hearing about the fan translation and the official Japanese kind of toying with the idea that Kirigiri isn't 100% gone from Shirakumo. Um, and
Oh,
and the art kind of, I think, plays with that better than the translation does, because I think that's kind of what's attributing to this cool hybrid look that Kirigiri Shirakumo is kind of doing right now, where his nose and his nose bandage, which is a bandage I would think that they would have been able to take off at some point. But I really like the look of it, and I think that's kind of how art is transcending the translation there. But we'll see if it's just done something for to look cool, or if Shirakumo is going to have some sort of part to play in the next chapter or two. But we'll definitely be talking about it on Mega Manga Mondays, so I hope you guys will listen to our next episode when that comes out. But yeah, unless you guys have anything else, I guess we'll move into plugs and recommendations.
yeah, I think we're good.
All right, excellent. Well, this has been Mega Manga Monday's discussion on My Hero Academia, episodes 7 and 8 of the anime, and chapter 373. Please check out more Mega Manga Mondays, especially if you are into My Hero Academia. We've got podcasts of a lot of the last few chapters, but we also talk about series like One Piece, Chainsaw Man, let's see, Boruto, and quite a few others. But you can check us out on megamangamondays.podbean.com. You can also listen to us on YouTube, Spotify, just pretty much wherever you can find some podcasts. But also follow us on Twitter at mmangamondays. And I set up a Hive social. Hive social is apparently a new social media a lot of people are jumping off of Twitter for, and you can follow us on Mega Manga Mondays there as well. We'll see if that turns into anything, but in case it does, we are on there. But one more plug from me, Jason Hahn. I have a YouTube series called Hansi and Friends. I'm kind of taking a break from streaming and putting out more comedic Let's Play videos. Me and some of my good buddies have played some games together, and we usually make each other laugh to the point where our sides hurt by the end of each episode. So we had a new episode come out for Metal Gear Solid 2 come out a couple days ago, and we're going to have some new Dragon Ball Tenkaichi 4 episodes coming out, which is us doing the story mode for Dragon Ball Z. So look forward to that, because we have a lot of fun with those. But Hansi and Friends on YouTube, please subscribe. And that'll do it for my plugs. Carlisle, you got anything today, man, for plugs or recommendations?
I'm still on Twitter for the moment. I haven't decided where or what I will be moving to, since it seems like Twitter is doomed. But you can, for the moment, follow me there at Elvin Revenue. Keep up with my development on my visual novel, Elvin Revenue Service. Fantasy life, everyday life in a fantasy world. That's my little catchphrase there. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to have links in the description and all of our plugs, so please check out our other stuff that we've been working really hard on. But we're also all writers for ScreenRant.com, so check out our works there. But Steven, how about you, man?
I don't really have anything new to add. I'll just say that I've been really enjoying this anime on Crunchyroll. I think I've mentioned it before. It was a crazy human school. Wow, I completely forgot it, but I've been really enjoying it a lot, just because, and it's one of those shows that I wanted to write about, but it's a little too niche for Screen Rant. But the Human Crazy University. But it's really, the story's really been changing a lot. It was really dark at first, and now, but there's just a lot of interesting things going on. Like, there's that main story, but then there's also points where the creators actually bring in real history and kind of explain it in a really fun visual way to give what's going on a little bit more depth and understanding. Like, there's a point in the show where there's someone falling out of a plane, and then it immediately switched over to the narrator talking about how there was one person who survived from falling out of a plane, and kind of following that story a little bit. So you get this fun little dichotomy going on. Really enjoying that show. It's the one that kind of feels like it's like the Aqua Teen Hunger Force of anime, just because of the animation style and how they move. It's very interesting, and I'm still enjoying it after I think 7 episodes in.
Oh boy, is it like Shin-Chan? Like, kind of animated like that?
Yeah, like, I don't know, like Shin-Chan. Like, it was just they kind of move like they're. It's a hard way to explain it. Okay. It's like how all the characters move. It just feels like they're puppets almost, but not really. It's a very weird animation style. But check it out. Yeah, it's the Human Crazy University.
Awesome.
Fun times.
Excellent. Well, lots of good recommendations today, and I hope you'll check them out. But I had a great time talking My Hero Academia with you guys. Thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to the next one.
Yeah, definitely.
Peace.